Stefon Diggs lost more than just the Super Bowl. He allegedly lost his woman, Cardi B. How happy Cardi was that they were going to the Super Bowl.
We all we got, we all we need, like Mr. Diggs said, L.
So a reporter asked her if she had any advice, but she kept it surprisingly short.
One inspiring message from
Good luck.
Cardi said good luck and walked away. Good luck? Is that some kind of sick foreplay that only Cardi and Stefon would understand? It's only been 3 business days, y'all. Stefon's other baby mama was also at the Super Bowl. They unfollowed each other on Instagram. Of course you didn't win the Super Bowl. You got too many women and babies in the same place. You are over here in the Super Bowl. You're supposed to be studying defensive plays, and you over here making sure one woman is on the opposite side of the field from the other. I may not have understood a lot of Bad Bunny's lyrics, but I understood that more than what I understood going on with Stefon and all of that. You cannot double book women unless you also double book the exit route. So before y'all actually officially break up, can you tell me what is the name of y'all baby?
When you lose the biggest game of your life, most people lick their wounds quietly, regroup, and move on. But when you lose on the field and lose your partner in the same 48 hours, that's a headline the internet can't ignore. In the aftermath of Super Bowl 60, where the Stefon Diggs and his New England Patriots fell short against the Seattle Seahawks, something even bigger dominated social feeds: rumors that his relationship with Cardi B is over. Fans noticed it almost immediately. Cardi and Diggs reportedly unfollowed each other on Instagram within hours of the game, sparking widespread speculation that the romance that began in 2025 and produced a son in November of that year may have hit its breaking point. Even more, Cardi's social media activity in the days after the Super Bowl, posting tour highlights and moments with friends without any sign of Diggs, sent speculation into overdrive, while Diggs responded with cryptic posts and disabled comments, adding fuel to the fire. But here's the real twist. Social media didn't wait for confirmations, interviews, or real context. Within hours, fans had already narrated the story as though the breakup was official. The Super Bowl was the catalyst, and Diggs' reaction, or lack thereof, was a key piece of the drama. Super Bowl Sunday was already high pressure. The Patriots walked into that stadium carrying expectations, headlines, and playoff momentum. And when the final score hit 29-13, it wasn't just a loss. It was a collapse on the biggest stage in American sports. For Stefon Diggs, that moment mattered. Cameras were everywhere. Every dropped pass, every sideline reaction, every facial expression was magnified. The Super Bowl doesn't just test skill, it tests composure. And when things don't go your way under that spotlight, the criticism comes fast. But here's where it gets layered. While analysts were breaking down routes and missed opportunities, fans online were watching something else entirely. They weren't just focused on the scoreboard, they were watching the suites, watching body language, watching Cardi. Within hours of the game ending, social media detectives noticed something subtle but powerful: the unfollow. In celebrity culture, that move speaks louder than any press release. When two public figures remove each other digitally, it's rarely accidental. Screenshots circulated, TikTok timelines filled up, Twitter threads multiplied, the narrative formed almost instantly. He lost the Super Bowl, and then he lost her. Now, whether the breakup was directly connected to the game or not, the timing made it explosive. 2 major losses in one weekend? The internet doesn't see coincidence. It sees symbolism, and that symbolism became the spark. Because from that point forward, this wasn't just about football anymore. It became about ego, humiliation, and what happens when a very public man takes a very public L. But the real shift didn't happen on the field. It happened before kickoff, in a 2-word moment that fans still can't stop replaying. Before the kickoff, before the loss, before the unfollow. There was a clip. ESPN caught Cardi B on camera the day before the game and asked the most predictable question in sports media history: "Do you have a message for Stefon before the big game?" She paused, looked straight ahead, no smile, no hype, no playful tone. Good luck. That was it. 2 words. Now on paper, completely normal, neutral, safe. But on the internet, tone is everything. And that clip spread like wildfire. Fans slowed it down, zoomed in, analyzed her posture, her facial expression, the energy in her voice. TikTok body language experts weighed in. Twitter threads popped up dissecting whether she looked checked out. Comment sections filled with, "She's done. That wasn't supportive energy. Something happened." And here's the thing, perception online moves faster than reality. By the time the game even started, people were already convinced there was tension. The clip planted a seed, then the Patriots lost. Then the unfollow happened, And suddenly, those two words didn't feel neutral anymore. They felt prophetic. In hindsight, people started rewriting the moment. She knew she was already over it. That wasn't a girlfriend talking. That was someone emotionally detached. Whether that's true or not, almost, doesn't matter. Because once the internet decides a moment means something, it becomes part of the story. And that clip? It became Exhibit A. But the real shift didn't happen in a press conference or on a stage. It happened quietly, with a button tap that changed the entire narrative. It didn't take a statement. It didn't take a breakup announcement. It took one thing: the unfollow. Within hours of the Super Bowl ending, fans noticed Cardi and Stefon were no longer following each other on Instagram. And in celebrity culture, that move is basically the digital equivalent of slamming a door. Screenshots started flying. Fan pages posted side-by-side comparisons. TikTok creators refreshed their screens in real time. And just like that, the breakup went from maybe to, oh, it's over. Because here's the reality. When two public figures stay connected after drama, people assume they're working through it. But when they hit that unfollow button, that's intentional, that's visible, that's public, and it gets deeper. Unfollowing isn't emotional, it's deliberate. You have to search the name, click the profile, hit the button, confirm it. There's a finality to it. So when Cardi did it and Stefon did it back, the internet read that as confirmation, not speculation, confirmation. The memes started immediately. He lost the Super Bowl and his girl in 24 hours. That good luck wasn't luck at all. Cardi said, "I'm done," and meant it. But here's what made this different from a typical celebrity split. There was no messy back and forth online, no cryptic paragraphs, no song lyrics subtweets, just silence. And that silence, it made people assume something bigger had happened behind the scenes. Because when a relationship ends quietly but suddenly, the public fills in the blanks. And once those blanks start getting filled, the narrative takes on a life of its own. But while the internet was building theories, something else was reportedly happening behind closed doors. And that's where the tone of this story really shifts. Because while the public saw the unfollow, the cold good luck, and the Super Bowl loss, reports started circulating about what was happening privately. And if even half of those whispers are true, it paints a very different picture of what came next. Multiple online outlets and insider accounts began claiming that after the breakup, Stefon didn't take it lightly. Not at all. According to these reports, he allegedly tried reaching out repeatedly. Calls, texts, back-to-back messages. The kind of contact that doesn't feel like casual, let's talk. It feels urgent, emotional, pressured. Now, to be clear, none of this has been publicly confirmed by either party. But the narrative spreading online suggests that Cardi wasn't responding, that she went silent, that she made it clear through actions, not words, that the relationship was over. And here's where the tone shifts. When someone walks away cleanly and the other person doesn't accept it, things get tense fast. Sources claimed he attempted to go through mutual friends, tried to get someone to just have her call him, tried to open a door that had already been closed. If that's true, it tells us something important. This wasn't just disappointment. This wasn't just heartbreak. This felt like shock, because there's a difference between losing someone slowly and being cut off abruptly. One gives you time to adjust. The other hits like a brick wall. And the timing made it worse. The Super Bowl loss, the public unfollow, the internet jokes. That's a heavy emotional stack for one weekend. But instead of going quiet and regrouping, the story that started forming online was that frustration was turning into anger. And anger, especially when mixed with embarrassment, can push people to say and do things they normally wouldn't. And if what insiders are hinting at is true, this is where the situation stopped being about a breakup and started becoming about ego. Here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. Sometimes it's not the relationship ending that hurts the most. It's the rejection. And according to what's been circulating, that's exactly where this situation shifted. Because if Stefon thought this was something they could quietly fix behind the scenes, Cardi's public exit changed everything. Unfollow, no statement, no back and forth drama, just gone. That kind of silence, that's loud. Insiders claim what really triggered the frustration wasn't just losing her, it was losing her publicly. The optics, the memes, the narrative forming online that he fumbled. When social media starts turning your breakup into a punchline, that hits pride differently. And here's what makes it worse. Cardi didn't spiral, she didn't post sad quotes, she didn't cry on live, she didn't explain herself. She went straight into tour mode, stage lights, sold-out crowds, standing ovations, confidence on full display. If you're the one who just got left, watching your ex glow up in real time can feel brutal. Not because they're thriving, but because they're thriving without you. Reports suggest he allegedly began venting to people in his circle, saying she overreacted, saying she embarrassed him, even hinting that she made things bigger than they needed to. But that framing doesn't land the way it might have 10 years ago, because the timeline doesn't lie. Multiple women present, public tension before the game, rumors of hotel room drama after the loss. When that's the backdrop, calling someone dramatic for walking away doesn't exactly win sympathy. And this is where ego quietly becomes the villain of the story, because heartbreak makes you sad. Ego makes you defensive. And according to the way this narrative is unfolding online, defense mode is exactly where he's operating right now. But what happens when defense turns into resentment? Here's where the energy shifted again. When someone can't control the ending, sometimes they try to control the story. Over the past few days, people online started noticing subtle changes. Not direct statements, not interviews, just little signals, like posts about men being misunderstood, quotes about loyalty being rare, subtle jabs about fake love, nothing that says it, but everything that implies one. And when you stack that against the timeline, it starts to feel strategic, because instead of accountability, the tone feels like repositioning, painting himself as the one who was done wrong, the one who was embarrassed, the one who got blindsided. But let's rewind for a second. Cardi didn't drop a diss track. She didn't expose private messages. She didn't drag him in interviews. She left. That's it. So if someone is now framing themselves as the victim, people are naturally asking, victim of what exactly? Sources claim he's been saying she didn't have his back, that she made him look crazy, that she should have handled it privately instead of unfollowing public. But here's the problem with that argument. The Super Bowl wasn't private. The multiple women weren't private. The optics weren't private. Once something unfolds on the biggest stage in America, you don't get to demand quiet damage control. And this is where the internet is refusing to switch sides, because people watched it happen in real time. They saw the cold good luck, they saw her leave early, they saw the unfollow, the breakup confirmation. It didn't look impulsive, it looked decided. And when a woman looks decided, it usually means she's been thinking about it for a while. So, if there was frustration building behind the scenes, the public moment may have just been the final But here's the real twist. The more someone tries to spin themselves as misunderstood, the more people start digging. And the internet loves digging. Now here's where things got brutal. Because once the misunderstood man energy started circulating, the internet did what it always does. It pulled out receipts, old clips, old headlines, old relationship timelines. And suddenly, this wasn't just about one breakup anymore. It became a pattern conversation. People started pointing out the multiple children with different women, the overlapping timelines, the Super Bowl optics, the alleged hotel situation, and instead of sympathy, the response was mostly, "You can't act shocked when consequences finally catch up." Memes flooded timelines within hours. Lost the ring, lost the girl, fumbled the bag, and the blood. Imagine being mad someone chose The tone online wasn't confusion, it was clarity. Because here's the if Cardi had stayed quiet and heartbroken, maybe the narrative would have been softer. But she didn't. She went straight into tour mode, sold out arenas, viral clips, standing ovations. She looked focused, not shattered. And that's what's reportedly stinging the most. Sources claim he didn't expect her to move on this fast, didn't expect her to look this unbothered, didn't expect the crowd to chant her name louder than ever. But public perception matters. And right now, the crowd sees growth on one side and ego on the other. That's a tough scoreboard to flip. And when the internet decides who fumbled, reversing that verdict is almost impossible. Because when someone realizes the narrative isn't shifting in their favor, the next move is usually one of two things: silence or a comeback attempt. And according to multiple insiders, there may have been an attempt to pull. Word is, he allegedly tried to show face at one of her tour stops, not publicly announced, not coordinated, just an effort to get backstage, talk in person, clear the air. But that door, locked. Security handled it. Access denied, no dramatic reunion, no private sit-down, just boundaries. And that moment says a lot, because showing up uninvited after a very public fallout doesn't read romantic. It reads desperate, especially when the person you're trying to see has made it crystal clear they're moving on. Now imagine the optics of that. You're already trending for allegedly fumbling. You're already being memed, and now you're trying to re-enter the picture physically. That's not power, that's panic. And here's the bigger layer. When someone tries to regain control by forcing proximity, it usually means they never processed the loss. They're reacting, not reflecting. Meanwhile, Cardi's team has reportedly been airtight, focused on the tour, focused on brand deals, focused on the kids. No distractions, no emotional public responses. That contrast? It's loud, because while one side is allegedly trying to reinsert themselves into the other side has already turned the page. And once someone turns the page publicly, rewriting the chapter gets almost impossible. But here's the real question. If the attempts to reconnect aren't working, what happens next? Here's where this stops being just relationship drama. Because when frustration leaks into behavior, it starts affecting reputation. Over the last few days, people have been analyzing everything. Body language in old interviews, lyrics, game day energy, social media activity. And once the public decides you're spiraling, every move looks like confirmation. That's the danger zone, because allegedly venting in private is one thing. But when those conversations start getting repeated, screenshotted, hinted at the narrative shifts from hurt to unstable. And perception is everything when you're an athlete at that level. Sponsors watch, teams watch, media watches. The NFL world already had its eyes on him after the Super Bowl performance. Add public breakup drama, alleged cheating rumors, and visible frustration. Now it becomes a storyline bigger than football. And that's where ego becomes expensive. Because instead of letting the moment cool off, every subtle reaction keeps it alive. Every liked post, every rumored comment, every "he's furious" headline. Meanwhile, Cardi hasn't said a word. No diss track, no interview, just motion. That silence is strategic, whether intentional or not. It forces the spotlight onto his reactions instead of her words. And when the spotlight only shows anger, people start asking a different question. Was this really about control? Because heartbreak makes you, but rage over losing someone publicly, that reveals something. And right now, the internet thinks it sees it clearly. The Super Bowl loss hurt. Of course it did. That's the biggest stage in sports. But games get replayed, stats get redeemed, championships can be chased again. What's harder to recover from? Publicly fumbling someone who upgraded your image overnight. Let's be real. When he started dating Cardi, his visibility exploded beyond football. Different audience, different headlines, different type of... He wasn't just an NFL star, he was part of a power couple. That kind of crossover influence. And now it's not because of injury, not because of bad luck, but because of choice. That's what makes this sting deeper. Because losing a game is external. Losing a relationship like that, that's internal. And the alleged anger people are describing doesn't sound like heartbreak, it sounds like ego collapse. Like someone who didn't expect to be the one left. When a person assumes you'll always tolerate their behavior, your exit feels like betrayal to them, even if it was self-protection for you. That's the psychology people online keep circling back. Why is he this upset? Why the frantic? Why the attempt to rewrite the narrative? Maybe because this wasn't supposed to happen. Maybe in his mind, she was supposed to. Maybe he thought the brand was stronger than the bound. But here's the reality. She walked. She stayed silent. She kept. And that kind of composure after. That's not weak. That's. And sometimes the biggest loss isn't the ring. It's the one who chose not to wear it. Because once the noise fades, what we're really watching isn't just a breakup. It's a clash between ego and accountability. Reports say he's frustrated, that he feels embarrassed, that he believes the public exit made him look bad. But here's the uncomfortable truth. The embarrassment didn't start when she unfollowed him. It started long before that. Public choices create public consequences. And when someone walks away quietly instead of arguing, defending, or explaining, that silence hits harder than any rant. Silence forces and reflection is uncomfortable when you don't like what makes this situation different. is how calm, no interviews, no messy lives, no cryptic posts, just distance. Just that kind of restraint shifts. Because when one person spirals and the other stays steady, the contrast speaks louder than words. It makes people ask deeper questions. Not why did you, but what happened behind the scenes that made leaving now? And that's the part that, at the end of the day, this isn't about winning the internet. It's about what happens when someone refuses to tolerate what they once. It's about growth outpacing ego. He may be angry, he may feel blindsided, but sometimes what feels sudden was building quietly for months. And sometimes the strongest move a person can make is simply walking away without looking back. So here's the real takeaway. This wasn't just about a game. It wasn't just about a breakup. It was about choices, public choices, private consequences, and what happens when someone finally decides they deserve better. One person reacted with emotion, the other responded with distance. One spiraled, the other leveled up. And that contrast, that's the real story. Because when someone walks away without chaos, without drama, it says everything. Drop your thought. Did he lose her because of ego? Or was this always And remember, sometimes the biggest loss isn't the